She was homeless, hungry, and invisible to the world, until the day she did something no one expected. Instead of begging for money, this little girl offered her last flower to a millionaire. What happened next would change both of their lives forever, and prove that one small act of kindness can transform everything. The evening air in Soho was crisp, filled with the distant hum of traffic and the soft glow of gallery lights. Elizabeth Liz Carter, dressed in her signature tailored coat, stepped out of the Soho Art Gallery after another successful exhibition. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she walked briskly, mind already shifting to her next meeting. Suddenly, her steps slowed when a frail voice called out. Sitting on the edge of the sidewalk was a girl no older than 15. Her clothes were tattered, her hair unkempt, but her eyes carried a spark of sincerity. In her small, trembling hands, she held a wilted daisy. Instead of asking for money or food, she stretched it out toward Liz. The gesture was so unexpected that Liz froze, unsure how to respond. Emily Johnson's voice was quiet but firm. "It's for you," she said. Her words carried no plea, no hidden agenda, only a strange kindness. Liz, a woman accustomed to people wanting something from her, found herself unsettled. She stared at the flower, wondering why someone who had nothing would offer her something so fragile. The world seemed to pause around them. The honking cars, the chatter of passers-by, even the neon lights, all blurred in Liz's mind. She hesitated before carefully taking the flower, feeling the brittle stem between her manicured fingers. A wave of discomfort mixed with curiosity washed over her. Why did this gesture feel heavier than any business deal she had ever closed? Emily smiled faintly, as though giving away her last possession meant liberation rather than loss. Her pale lips trembled, but her eyes carried warmth. Liz felt something stir deep within her, a memory of loneliness she thought she had buried long ago. She wanted to say something, but her throat tightened. Before Liz could react further, Emily stood, clutching her thin jacket against the cold wind. Without asking for anything, she turned and slowly walked away toward the darker streets of Brooklyn. Liz stood frozen, flower in hand, feeling an unfamiliar ache grow in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt powerless. Michael Davis, her driver, called her name, snapping her out of the trance. "Ms. Carter, the car's ready," he said, puzzled at the sight of his boss staring at a half-dead Daisy. Liz nodded, forcing composure, and slipped into the back seat. But as the city lights blurred past the window, she couldn't let go of the image of the girl. Inside the car, Liz twirled the wilted flower between her fingers. Her mind replayed the moment again and again, as though there was a hidden meaning she couldn't decipher. She was used to cold negotiations, ruthless decisions, and controlled emotions. Yet now, all of that felt irrelevant compared to one small act of kindness. By the time she reached her penthouse, Liz still carried the flower. She placed it gently in a crystal glass filled with water, knowing it wouldn't revive. Still, she felt compelled to keep it. As she lay in bed that night, the memory of Emily's eyes haunted her, pulling her into a restless sleep. For a woman who had everything, Liz Carter suddenly felt as if she were missing the most important thing of all, and the face of a homeless girl she barely knew was the reason why. If you believe every small act of kindness has the power to change the world, make sure to subscribe and join us for the rest of this story. The clock ticked softly in Liz's bedroom, but sleep refused to come. Her penthouse, perched high above Manhattan, sparkled with designer decor and breathtaking views, yet none of it brought comfort. She tossed beneath silk sheets, clutching the pillow as if it could silence the questions flooding her mind. Why had the girl given her the flower? What had it meant? Each time Liz closed her eyes, Emily's faint smile returned, framed by shadows of the city streets. The simplicity of that gesture cut deeper than any criticism Liz had ever faced in her career. She had built an empire by controlling every detail, yet one fleeting moment with a stranger had shattered that control. She turned in bed, restless and uneasy. Her thoughts wandered back to her own childhood. She had been raised in wealth, yet loneliness was her constant companion. The girl's kindness stirred a forgotten ache, a longing for something genuine. Liz whispered to herself, "Why can't I let this go?" The question echoed into the silence. unanswered. Unable to bear the stillness, Liz rose and walked toward the large window overlooking the glittering city. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, her reflection staring back at her with unfamiliar doubt. She thought about the countless times people approached her for money, favors, or attention. None had affected her like Emily's silent offering. Down below, the streets seemed endless, filled with lives she rarely considered. Somewhere out there, Emily was alone, maybe cold, maybe hungry. The thought unsettled Liz more than she expected. She tried to shake it off, reminding herself that she wasn't responsible for every life in the city. But her heart resisted logic. Michael's voice replayed in her mind. He had looked confused when she stared at the daisy earlier, and Liz knew he would dismiss it as nonsense. Her assistant Rachel, too, would think she was distracted from work. Yet Liz couldn't deny it. Something had shifted inside her, and pretending otherwise felt impossible. She returned to the glass of water where the daisy now rested. Its petals drooped, fragile and lifeless. Liz traced a finger along the rim of the glass as though it held the answer. "Why me?" she whispered, as if Emily had chosen her for some hidden purpose. The flower remained silent, but her heart beat faster. That night, Liz dreamt of wandering through empty streets, searching for someone she couldn't find. Faces blurred, but Emily's eyes remained vivid. Each time Liz reached for her, Emily drifted away, vanishing into the shadows. She awoke with a gasp, her chest tight, and her pillow damp with tears she hadn't realized had fallen. The morning sun crept through the blinds, but Liz felt no relief. Her staff arrived, bringing reports and schedules, but her mind wasn't on fashion shows or business deals. She pushed the papers aside, distracted, and stared again at the daisy. It had withered further, yet still carried a weight greater than all her contracts combined. For the first time in her career, Elizabeth Carter admitted to herself that she could not focus. She could not simply move on. She needed to find Emily Johnson again, and this time she wouldn't let her walk away. Liz's decision to find Emily grew stronger with every passing hour. She instructed Michael, her loyal driver, to cancel her scheduled meetings and drive her across Manhattan. From the glittering avenues of Midtown to the shadowed corners of Brooklyn, Liz scanned the sidewalks with an intensity Michael had never seen before. For once, fashion shows and investors no longer occupied her thoughts. They passed shelters with lines of weary faces, people huddling against the cold. Liz felt a pang of guilt as she glanced out the tinted windows of her sleek car. She saw fragments of Emily in every girl she passed, but none were her. Each failure only deepened Liz's frustration, yet also fueled her determination. She would not stop until she found her. Michael, skeptical yet obedient, voiced his concern. "Ms. Carter, this city is full of people like her. You can't save them all." Liz shot him a sharp look, her voice steady. "I'm not trying to save them all, I just need to find her." Something in her tone silenced him, revealing that this was no whim. It was personal, though Liz herself didn't fully understand why. Hours turned into days, with Liz spending more time in the car than in her office. Rachel, her assistant, grew worried, calling repeatedly about missed appointments and angry investors. Liz ignored them all, her mind consumed by Emily's face. For the first time in years, her empire was not her priority. One fragile girl was. Finally, after 3 long days of searching, Michael spotted a familiar figure near a shelter in Brooklyn. The girl's thin frame and tangled hair were unmistakable. Liz's heart leapt as she ordered him to stop immediately. Stepping out of the car, flowerless yet hopeful, she knew this was the chance she had been waiting for. Emily Johnson was within reach once more. Liz approached cautiously, unsure how Emily would react. The girl sat against the shelter wall, hugging her knees, her eyes fixed on the pavement. She looked smaller than Liz remembered, as though life had pressed even harder on her fragile frame. When Liz knelt beside her, Emily flinched, startled but did not run. "I've been looking for you," Liz said softly. Emily narrowed her eyes, suspicion clouding her expression. "Why? People like you don't care about people like me." Her words carried both defiance and exhaustion. Liz swallowed hard, realizing that trust would not come easily. She needed to prove that her intentions were real. Instead of money, Liz extended her hand. "Come have a meal with me. Just food. Nothing else." Emily hesitated, biting her lip. Her gaze shifted between Liz's polished appearance and her own torn shoes. The contrast felt unbearable, yet something in Liz's eyes seemed different, earnest, not pitying. Slowly, Emily nodded. At a small diner nearby, Liz ordered hot soup and sandwiches. Emily ate cautiously at first, as though afraid the food might disappear. Liz watched in silence, resisting the urge to fill the air with words. She wanted Emily to feel safe, to set the pace of the conversation. After a long silence, Emily finally whispered, "Why me?" Liz's chest tightened at the question. She could have answered with business-like precision, but instead, she spoke from the heart. "Because you gave me something no one else has in years, kindness without expecting anything back." Emily lowered her eyes, unsure whether to believe her. Yet for the first time, a fragile thread of trust began to form between them. The diner's warmth contrasted sharply with the icy streets outside, and for a moment Emily allowed herself to feel human again. Liz studied her quietly, noticing the way she held the spoon with trembling hands. The silence between them was fragile but not uncomfortable. Liz finally spoke, her voice low. "You don't have to stay on those streets forever." Emily froze, suspicion flickering in her eyes again. "People always say that, but no one really means it," she muttered, pushing crumbs around her plate. Liz leaned forward, her expression earnest. "I do. I can give you a place to stay, at least for tonight." Her words carried weight, but Emily's posture stiffened, her distrust rising once more. Liz could sense the battle raging within the girl. Pride and fear warred against exhaustion and need. She didn't want to overwhelm her, so she softened her tone. No strings attached, just warmth, food, and a bed. Emily's eyes glistened, and for the first time, Liz glimpsed the vulnerable child beneath the hardened shell. Michael entered the diner, waiting by the door with his usual stoic expression. Emily noticed him and whispered, "Is he your bodyguard?" Liz chuckled softly. "No, just someone who works for me." The honesty in her answer seemed to ease some of Emily's tension. Slowly, the girl nodded, though her body remained tense with caution. When they stepped out into the cold night, Liz offered her coat, but Emily refused, clutching her thin jacket. The car ride was silent, filled with unspoken fears. As Manhattan's bright towers came into view, Emily's eyes widened, both in awe and disbelief. She had never been so close to that world of glass and steel, and never imagined she'd be entering it. Liz's penthouse stretched across the skyline, with floor-to-ceiling windows that revealed all of Manhattan glittering like a sea of stars. Emily hesitated at the doorway, frozen as if stepping inside would be a mistake. "This isn't for people like me," she whispered. Liz turned gently toward her. "It's for anyone I choose to welcome, and I'm choosing you." Emily walked slowly, her shoes squeaking against the polished floor. Every piece of furniture seemed untouchable, every light too bright. She sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching her knees, as though she might disappear if she breathed too loudly. Liz instructed the staff to bring fresh clothes and food, but Emily's eyes darted with panic. The girl's unease grew heavier as the night deepened. Though the bed offered comfort, Emily lay awake, staring at the chandelier above her. Voices in her head whispered that she didn't belong, that she would be taken advantage of or abandoned again. The luxury around her felt suffocating, a cruel reminder of everything she never had. By dawn, fear won. Emily quietly slipped from the bed, tiptoeing through the silent halls until she reached the door. She grabbed her worn jacket and left the penthouse, the cold air stinging her face as freedom and regret collided in her chest. She didn't leave a note. She simply vanished back into the streets. When Liz awoke and discovered the empty room, her heart sank. The untouched clothes and folded blanket mocked her effort. For the first time in years, Elizabeth Carter felt rejected, not by a boardroom or investor, but by the very girl she had risked her heart to protect. And that pain cut deeper than she expected. Liz's morning began with panic as she realized Emily was gone. Her penthouse, once a symbol of triumph, now felt like an empty shell. She called Michael immediately, her voice trembling with urgency. "She left, we have to find her." Michael hesitated but obeyed, sensing that this was more than a passing whim. For Liz, It had become something personal, something vital. The search consumed her days and nights. Meetings were cancelled, designers left waiting, and investors grew restless. Liz sat in the back of her car, staring out the window at every corner of Manhattan, her eyes sharp and restless. She drove through neighborhoods she had never dared to enter, guided only by a desperate hope. The city's vastness mocked her persistence. Rachel, her assistant, called repeatedly. "Liz, you're sabotaging your career for someone you barely know," she warned. But Liz refused to listen. "She's not just someone, she matters." The conviction in her voice silenced Rachel, though doubt lingered. For the first time, Liz's empire seemed irrelevant compared to the fragile life of one girl. Days blurred together. Liz refused to sleep until exhaustion claimed her. Even Michael, loyal but skeptical, urged her to stop. "She doesn't want to be found," he said one night. Liz's response was immediate, her voice breaking. "Then I'll prove to her that she's worth being found." Her determination surprised even herself. On the fourth day, Liz finally spotted Emily outside a public hospital in Brooklyn. She looked weak, her thin body curled up on the steps, coughing violently. Liz's chest tightened as fear gripped her. Without hesitation, she rushed forward, kneeling beside the girl. Emily's fevered eyes flickered open, meeting hers with disbelief. "You came back," she whispered before collapsing. Doctors rushed Emily into the emergency room, and Liz followed closely, ignoring the stares of strangers. She refused to leave the girl's side, her designer clothes stained with worry rather than elegance. Hours passed, filled with the beeping of machines and the sterile smell of disinfectant. Liz sat silently, her hands clasped, praying to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. When Emily's fever finally began to break, relief washed over Liz. She watched the girl stir, her breathing steadier, her skin less pale. Emily blinked weakly and whispered, "Why are you here?" Liz's eyes softened. "Because you matter to me," she replied, her voice trembling with truth. Emily turned away, fighting tears, still doubting her worth. Michael entered quietly, shaking his head. "You've been here 3 days, Liz. The press is starting to notice." She didn't care. "Let them talk. This is more important." For the first time, Michael saw vulnerability in the woman he thought was unshakable. Beneath the sharp exterior was someone who longed for connection, someone finally willing to risk her heart. Emily's recovery was slow, but Liz never left her side. She read aloud from magazines, held her hand during painful coughing fits, and sat through long silences without complaint. Nurses whispered about the wealthy woman caring for a homeless child, but Liz ignored them. To her, Emily wasn't a headline. She was family waiting to be found. As Emily grew stronger, Liz made a quiet vow. She would no longer let fear or pride keep her from doing what her heart demanded. Emily had given her a gift far greater than a daisy. She had given her purpose. And Liz was determined never to let that purpose slip away again. News of Liz Carter's unusual devotion spread quickly through New York. Paparazzi camped outside the hospital, snapping photos of her holding Emily's hand. Headlines painted her as eccentric, reckless, or worse, using a homeless girl as a publicity stunt. Liz ignored the noise, but inside, the whispers of betrayal echoed louder than she wanted to admit. Investors and board members called emergency meetings, their voices filled with outrage. "You're destroying your reputation," one shouted. "Our clients don't want this kind of distraction." Liz sat in silence, her eyes burning. The empire she had built with steel discipline was crumbling beneath her, but she refused to surrender Emily to protect it. Rachel, ever loyal, defended her in private. "Maybe they're right, Liz, but I can see you're happier now than you've ever been." Liz sighed, rubbing her temples. Happiness was unfamiliar territory, fragile and terrifying. Yet Emily's presence had awakened something too powerful to ignore, a reminder that her empire meant nothing without human connection. Michael warned her bluntly, "They'll cut you out of your own company if you don't stop." Liz leaned back, her voice calm but firm. "Then let them. I'd rather lose everything than lose her." Michael studied her, realizing that for the first time in her life, Liz wasn't chasing wealth, she was protecting love. That night, Liz visited Emily in the hospital again, the chaos of the outside world locked away behind her. Emily, still weak, whispered, "You shouldn't waste your time on me." Liz squeezed her hand tightly. "You're not a waste, Emily. You're the reason I finally know who I am." Her words carried a conviction stronger than any contract she had ever signed. Emily grew stronger with each passing day, but the scars of her past weighed heavily. One evening, as Liz read aloud, Emily interrupted. Her voice shook, her hands twisting nervously in the blanket. "I wasn't always on the streets. I was adopted once." The confession startled Liz, and she lowered the book slowly, her heart bracing for the truth. Emily's eyes filled with tears as she recounted the abandonment. "They said they wanted me, but after a year, they gave me back, like I was broken." Her voice cracked under the weight of the memory. Liz's chest tightened. She reached for Emily's hand, realizing the girl's fear of rejection ran deeper than hunger or cold. It was the wound of being unwanted. For the first time, Liz saw herself reflected in Emily's pain. Though raised in wealth, Liz too had grown up emotionally abandoned, her parents more focused on prestige than love. A wave of empathy washed over her, binding her to Emily not just out of compassion, but shared loneliness. They were two souls scarred by different battles, yet the same emptiness. Emily's tears fell freely and Liz wiped them gently away. "You're not broken," Liz whispered, her own voice trembling. "You were never broken. You were left by people who didn't deserve you." Emily stared at her, disbelief flickering, but also a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, Liz meant it. That night, Liz lay awake again, not from restlessness, but from clarity. She knew now why she couldn't let Emily go. It wasn't just about saving a girl from the streets. It was about saving herself, about healing wounds she had long buried. And for the first time, Liz Carter allowed herself to admit it. She wanted Emily as her daughter. The boardroom felt colder than ever. Liz sat at the head of the long glass table, staring at the faces of men and women who once praised her genius. Now their eyes were sharp, accusing. "You're jeopardizing the future of this company," one said. Another added, "We can't stand by while you destroy everything we've built." Their voices clashed like hammers. Liz's silence only fueled their anger. Finally, one of her senior partners placed a thick folder on the table. Inside were documents prepared to remove her from her own company. The betrayal struck harder than any criticism. She had built this empire from the ground up, yet now loyalty crumbled the moment she chose compassion over profit. Rachel was devastated, but not surprised. She whispered after the meeting, "They've been planning this, Liz. They just needed an excuse." Liz nodded, her expression steady, though her heart burned with pain. The irony stung. Her greatest act of humanity had become their weapon against her. Still, she felt strangely free from the golden cage of her empire. Michael confronted her as well, his tone heavy. "They'll destroy you. Are you ready for that?" Liz met his eyes, unwavering. "If they destroy me, so be it. But they won't destroy Emily. I won't let them." For once, Michael had no retort. He simply nodded, realizing Liz's resolve was unshakable. She was willing to sacrifice everything for this girl. That evening, Liz returned to Emily's hospital room, masking her turmoil with a gentle smile. Emily sensed something was wrong. "You look sad," she said softly. Liz kissed her forehead. "I might lose some things, but it doesn't matter. What matters is you." Emily's eyes widened, her defenses slowly breaking. For the first time, she believed Liz might never leave. Weeks later, Liz stood in Manhattan family court, her nerves taut beneath her polished exterior. Emily sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. Lawyers murmured, papers shuffled, and skeptical judges peered over their glasses. To them, Liz was a wealthy woman chasing a misguided impulse. To Liz, it was the fight of her life, the chance to prove her love was real. The opposing side argued harshly. "This is not about love. This is a publicity stunt. Miss Carter has no experience raising a child. Her lifestyle is unstable and her career is already in crisis." Each word sliced through Liz, but she refused to flinch. Emily's grip on her hand reminded her what was at stake. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for Emily's future. Liz's lawyer presented her case, emphasizing her commitment, resources, and the countless hours spent by Emily's side. Yet the judge's gaze remained stern, doubtful. "Why risk everything for this girl?" he asked. Liz stood, her voice trembling but firm. "Because she gave me what no one else has, hope, and I will give her what she has never had, a family." The courtroom grew silent. Emily spoke softly when given the chance. Her words were hesitant but raw. "She's the only one who never gave up on me. Please, let me stay with her." Her plea carried more power than any legal argument. Even the judge shifted uneasily, recognizing the authenticity in the child's voice. Liz's eyes brimmed with tears as she squeezed Emily's hand. The hearing ended without a ruling, leaving tension hanging in the air. Liz walked out into the cold Manhattan wind, her heart pounding. She had faced ruthless competitors and hostile takeovers, but nothing compared to this battle. For the first time, her empire couldn't shield her. Only her love for Emily could, and she was ready to fight until the end. Emily's strength began to falter as the legal battle dragged on. Nights in the hospital returned, not because of pneumonia this time, but from exhaustion and despair. She whispered to Liz, "I'm not worth all this trouble. They'll take me away anyway." Liz's heart shattered hearing those words. The girl who had fought to survive now seemed ready to give up. Liz sat by her bedside, refusing to let go of her hand. "You are worth everything, Emily. More than I ever dreamed." Emily turned away, her tears soaking the pillow. "Everyone leaves. Why would you be different?" The fear in her voice revealed scars too deep for comfort alone. Liz knew words would never be enough. She needed to prove it. Rachel visited, urging Liz to rest. "You can't fight this if you're running yourself into the ground." But Liz shook her head. "She needs me more than I need sleep." Michael stood silently in the corner, finally understanding Liz's devotion. Even he, once cynical, now admired the woman risking everything for love. As the court date drew closer, Emily grew quieter. She refused food, avoided eye contact, and curled into herself like a wounded bird. Liz felt helpless, her empire's power useless against a child's pain. She prayed silently, something she hadn't done since her youth, begging for strength to carry them both through this storm. One night, as Emily lay trembling, Liz leaned close and whispered fiercely, "I will never abandon you no matter what happens. Even if the world turns against us, I will fight for you." Emily's eyes glistened, a flicker of hope breaking through the darkness. For the first time in weeks, she squeezed Liz's hand back. The final court session arrived, heavy with tension. Reporters swarmed outside, shouting questions as Liz and Emily entered hand in hand. Inside, the judge's expression was unreadable. Lawyers exchanged arguments, but Liz's focus never left Emily. When called to speak, Liz rose with calm determination, her voice steady despite the weight on her shoulders. "I have built an empire," Liz began, "but none of it matters if I cannot share it. This child has taught me that love is more valuable than fortune. I don't want her because of pity. I want her because she is my daughter, not by blood, but by heart." The courtroom murmured at her boldness, but Liz stood unwavering. The judge turned to Emily, who sat nervously in her chair. "Do you want to live with Miss Carter?" he asked gently. Emily swallowed hard, her voice trembling but clear. "Yes, she's the only one who sees me. She's the only one who never left." The words echoed with raw truth, silencing even the harshest critics in the room. After a long pause, the judge announced his decision. "The adoption is approved." Liz gasped, tears streaming as she pulled Emily into her arms. The courtroom blurred as the weight of weeks lifted. For the first time in her life, Liz felt whole. Emily clung to her tightly, finally believing that she had found a home that would never vanish. The following week, Liz shocked the business world by announcing her resignation from a multi-million-dollar contract. "I choose my family over profit," she declared at a press conference. Many criticized her decision, but others applauded. For Liz, the choice was simple. Her heart no longer belonged to an empire. It belonged to Emily. Years passed, and the world knew Liz Carter not only as a fashion mogul, but as the founder of Emily's Flower Foundation. The organization spread across the country, helping thousands of homeless children find shelter, education, and hope. Liz often stood beside Emily at events, proud not of her empire, but of the young woman Emily had become. Emily blossomed into a confident and compassionate leader. She traveled to schools and shelters, sharing her story with children who felt invisible. "I was once where you are," she told them, her voice steady but warm, "but someone believed in me. And now, I believe in you." Her words lit sparks of hope in hearts long forgotten by society. One chilly evening, Emily found herself walking past the same diner where she once sat across from Liz for the first time. Near the door, a young girl huddled against the cold, clutching a torn blanket. Emily's heart clenched as memories returned. Kneeling beside the girl, she reached out, offering her hand with the same kindness Liz had once shown her. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear and doubt. Emily smiled gently and whispered, "Come with me. You don't have to be alone anymore." In that moment, the cycle of compassion came full circle. The gesture of a wilted daisy years ago had blossomed into a legacy of love that would never fade. At home, Liz watched from the window as Emily returned with the girl. Pride swelled in her chest, her heart full. She realized the greatest miracle wasn't the foundation, nor the fortune she had built. It was the family she had found. Love had begun with a single flower, and now it bloomed endlessly, carried forward by the daughter of her heart. A simple flower. That's all it took to change two lives forever. Emily found a family, and Liz discovered that true wealth is love, not money. And now I want to ask you, what's the smallest act of kindness that ever changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more inspirational stories, and share it with someone who needs hope today. This story proves that love can grow from the smallest seed. If it touched your heart, subscribe to our channel and share your own story of kindness in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.